At 3 a.m., 180 miles north of Venezuela's coastline, a go-fast vessel tears through the Atlantic at a devastating 40 knots. The crew believes they've orchestrated the flawless operation. They have exactly 14 minutes before the United States Navy erases them from existence. Their entire plan depends on one catastrophic miscalculation, using radar clutter from commercial shipping traffic as concealment. It's like an insect attempting to disappear against a spotlight. Aboard the USS Sampson, their emergence isn't a surprise. It's a confirmed lock. The instant their signature materialized, high velocity, low profile, zero electronic identification, the Aegis combat system processed and categorized it. That anonymous radar return was immediately designated as hostile target, matching precise intelligence on a transportation network serving the Tren de Aragua terrorist organization. This isn't about narcotics interdiction. The Sampson is tracking a weapon of mass destruction. The vessel carries 2,000 pounds of fentanyl precursor chemicals, a devastating payload designed to devastate American communities. Within the temperature-controlled 68-degree atmosphere of the Combat Information Center, there's no panic, only cold precision. The ambush is complete. The operation has begun. Inside the Sampson's CIC, the hunt initiates not with weapons fire, but with a single command input. At 3:02 a.m., the narco vessel has 12 minutes before it disappears into the labyrinth of commercial maritime traffic. For them, every second counts. The Sampson's opening move, however, requires less than 60 seconds to execute. The command flows from the tactical action officer to an MQ-8C Fire Scout drone, maintaining invisible altitude at 15,000 feet. Two AGM-117R Hellfire missiles release from their mounting points, rocket motors igniting in the frigid upper atmosphere. These aren't conventional explosives meant for widespread devastation. They're 20-pound laser-guided precision instruments engineered for surgical elimination. Their objective is calculated violence. Obliterate the target's propulsion capability from 20 miles distance, long before the Sampson enters detection range. At 3:03 a.m., the first Hellfire impacts the stern, transforming the outboard motor into an expanding cloud of disintegrated metal fragments. The vessel lurches catastrophically, throwing the crew against interior surfaces. Total panic erupts. They discharge AR-15 rifles blindly skyward, then activate their desperation measure, a bargain basement electronic jammer. Momentarily, the drone operator's display aboard the Sampson dissolves into cascading digital interference. But attempting to disrupt the Aegis network with black market technology is equivalent to stopping a tsunami with household plumbing. The system isn't a singular transmission. It's an interconnected web of multiple sensors. It instantaneously identifies the jamming wavelength, eliminates it, and reacquires the target. The complete process consumes 1.8 seconds. By then, the second Hellfire has already reached its destination. It penetrates the vessel's main fuel reservoir, the warhead breaching the hull before detonation. The explosion is a concentrated percussion blast that tears a massive opening through the boat's center section. At 3:04 a.m., the target is now a blazing wreckage, velocity plummeting from 40 knots to a struggling 25. It's crippled, hemorrhaging smoke and fuel, but still functional. The first phase has accomplished its mission. Now the second phase advances for termination. At 3:06 a.m., aboard the disabled go-fast vessel, panic has transformed into primal survival instinct. They're wounded but still resistant, their thoughts racing. They assume the strike originated from a heat-seeking missile that locked onto their engine temperature. It's a lethal yet predictable conclusion. Their countermeasure is a standard smuggler's technique. They begin launching magnesium flares overboard. The flares detonate on water contact, erupting into brilliant 2,000-degree illumination bursts. A frantic attempt to generate hotter signatures to deceive the technology they believe is pursuing them. They're convinced that if they can just overwhelm the American systems for several minutes, they can still reach the shipping corridors and vanish. They haven't yet registered the sound that announces their operation's termination. It begins as a distant thumping, a vibration transmitted through their hull, rapidly escalating into the thunderous roar of rotor blades slicing atmosphere. An MH-60R Seahawk helicopter, call sign Viper 01, emerges from the darkness, racing across the surface at 150 knots. Launched from the Sampson's flight deck minutes earlier, its assignment isn't destruction, but intimidation, and, if required, elimination. The flares are completely ineffective. Their strategy was founded on a fundamental misreading of their adversary. They were attempting to confuse a heat-seeking weapon, but the Seahawk isn't tracking with thermal imaging. It's tracking with an AN/APG-79 ASA radar system. This technology doesn't register temperature. It transmits a concentrated energy beam and analyzes the solid, dense structure that reflects it. To the Seahawk's computer, the flares are just irrelevant pyrotechnics in the void. Descending to 500 feet altitude, the pilot illuminates the vessel with a searchlight so powerful it strips color from the deck. This is United States Navy vessel Viper 01. A voice thunders through the helicopter's loudspeaker system, the declaration cutting through the engine noise. You are commanded to stand down. This is your final warning. The narcos respond with raw, desperate defiance. One raises his AK-47 and unleashes a prolonged, erratic burst at the helicopter. The rounds, hopelessly underpowered, drop harmlessly into the ocean 1,000 feet below their target. Viper 01 answers their resistance with overwhelming firepower. Another Hellfire missile launches from its pylon. This strike isn't surgical. It's catastrophic. It blasts a clean 10-foot opening through the boat's midsection, obliterating the console and shredding the remaining controls into a chaos of sparking cables and shattered fiberglass. At 3:08 a.m., the vessel is now motionless in the water, a floating inferno. Its velocity is 0. But even now, confronting total annihilation, the crew's criminal reflexes activate. They begin throwing weighted decoy packages overboard, a classic cartel deception designed to simulate that the valuable cargo has been lost to the depths. They've been stopped, but they haven't surrendered, and they haven't been captured. The phase for standoff engagement was concluded. It was time for Sampson to announce her presence. Advancing at 30 knots, the warship's 100,000 horsepower gas turbine engines generate a wake churned like whitewater rapids in the darkness. The 9,200-ton destroyer closes the final distance. With its massive gray hull towering over the burning wreckage like a steel fortress, for the narcos floating helplessly in the water, the sight is utterly spirit-crushing. The command came for the Mk-46 remote weapon station 50 caliber machine gun. But this isn't a weapon a sailor operates manually. It's a remotely controlled gyro-stabilized platform. It's irrelevant if the Sampson is rolling in 10-foot swells. The barrel of that weapon remains locked on its target like it's mounted to solid ground, guaranteeing inhumanly precise fire. The gunner, monitoring through a high-definition camera from the safety of the CIC, didn't target the crew. He targeted their capacity to resist. A controlled 3-second burst erupted from the gun, the heavy round stitching a perfect line across what remained of the boat's console, triggering an explosion of sparks and destroyed displays. As the Sampson maneuvered to eliminate any possible escape route, its own massive wake combined with the smoke from the burning vessel created a temporary burst of radar interference on the CIC screens. For a split second, the perfect hard lock on the target wavered. But the Aegis system is engineered for this exact situation. It utilizes clutter rejection algorithms. It's like having noise-canceling technology for radar. The computer distinguishes between the chaotic signature of ocean waves and the solid metallic return of a vessel, and it simply filters out the interference. The lock was re-established in under a second. The gunner received his final target, the rudder. Another precise burst tore the steering mechanism completely from its attachment. At 3:12 a.m., the boat was now a helpless hulk. No propulsion, no steering, engulfed in flames and flooding. The physical confrontation was terminated, but the mission wasn't complete. The vessel was neutralized. Now it was time to apprehend the criminals. The physical engagement was finished. Now came the final phase. At 3:13 a.m., the Sampson's stern doors opened and 2 RHIBs roared into the water like predators on the hunt. These aren't simple transport craft. They're rigid-hull inflatable boats, 50-knot maritime assault platforms powered by 450-horsepower diesel engines. Aboard was a Coast Guard law enforcement detachment. These aren't sailors. They're the specialists in at-sea takedowns, the absolute experts at boarding hostile vessels and enforcing maritime law where there is none. Observing the two black boats screaming toward them across the water, the narcos floating in the debris of their destroyed operation played their final desperate card. They abandoned ship. They scattered in different directions, clinging to the delusional hope that the dark ocean could conceal them. The Ladiet team leader, watching them through stabilized binoculars, just shook his head. He simply indicated the thermal camera display mounted on his console. Thermal imaging technology is a brutal counter to desperation. It doesn't detect people. It detects heat. And against the cool 75-degree Caribbean water, the 98.6-degree bodies of the swimming men weren't faint traces. They were three brilliant white-hot signatures blazing like beacons against a black background. There was no escape. The RHIBs closed in. Grappling hooks deployed, restraints secured, and three soaking wet, utterly defeated men were extracted without resistance. At 3:14 a.m., with the criminals secured, one of the elite members boarded the smoldering wreckage and positioned a handheld spectrometer near one of the damaged packages. Think of it as a portable chemistry laboratory. The screen flashed red, confirming the team's primary objective. 2,000 pounds of nearly pure fentanyl precursor, now neutralized. From the first radar signature that materialized on the Samson screen to 3 terrorists in restraints, the entire engagement had lasted exactly 14 minutes. The hunt was terminated. At 3:20 a.m., viewed through the Seahawk's thermal camera, the go-fast boat was a study in controlled violence. The Hellfire missiles hadn't simply destroyed it. Their shaped charge warheads had functioned like kinetic drills, punching clean 10-foot openings through the composite hull. The objective was to surgically eliminate the boat's ability to move and fight, and neutralize the cargo. The 2,000 pounds of fentanyl precursor was now completely worthless. Saturated in corrosive salt water, the chemical compounds were being irreversibly degraded through osmosis. The payload that was designed to poison American cities was being rendered into a harmless, saturated paste by the fundamental chemistry of the ocean itself. At 7 a.m., as sunrise broke over the Atlantic, the information campaign began. The Pentagon released a brief, crystal-clear video clip from the Seahawks camera displaying the decoy packages being thrown overboard. International news agencies like Reuters and the Associated Press covered